The Rangers transfer window closed with a bang, but instead of celebration and optimism flooding the streets around Ibrox, the prevailing feeling was something much darker. Frustration, confusion, and outright anger have taken hold of the fan base after what many supporters are calling one of the most baffling transfer decisions in recent memory. While deadline day is usually a time for final splashes and big reinforcements, this time, it's left fans scratching their heads and questioning what exactly Russell Martin is trying to build at this club. For weeks, speculation had been building over who Rangers would bring in to solidify the squad ahead of a crucial stretch in the season. There was cautious hope that the window would end with smart business, and maybe even a statement signing or two. But what unfolded instead has left many feeling like the team might have come out of the market weaker, not stronger. And at a time when the pressure is already mounting, that's a dangerous place to be for any manager. Let's talk about what actually happened. The most controversial move of the day, and perhaps of the entire window, was the signing of Chermatai from Everton. On paper, it looked like a bold move, a young striker with potential, coming in from the Premier League. But when you dig into the numbers, the reaction from supporters starts to make sense. Rangers shelled out a staggering fee, around £8 million, with add-ons potentially taking the deal up to $10 million, for a player who, let's be honest, is still unproven at the top level. No goals in the English Premier League, limited senior experience, and now suddenly being handed the responsibility to lead the line at one of the most demanding clubs in Scottish football? It's no wonder the mood around Ibrox turned sour. And this isn't just about one signing. The real issue fans are taking with Russell Martin isn't just who came in, but who was allowed to leave. Within the same window, Rangers parted ways with CYRIEL Dessers, a striker who, while not perfect, had shown he could deliver. He was sold to Panathinaikos for a fee just under £4 million, a deal that felt far too modest for a player who had been one of the few reliable sources of goals in recent times. On top of that, Hamza Egamane, another attacking option whom many believed deserved more opportunities, was also pushed out, joining Lille after being essentially frozen out under Martin. The message being sent? Proven options out. Raw projects in. Now, there's nothing wrong with building for the future. Every club needs to do that. But Rangers are in a moment where the present matters just as much, if not more. A difficult start to the league campaign, no wins in the opening matches, and the pressure of European competition breathing down their necks. This is not the time to gamble. This is the time for leadership, for certainty, for players who can hit the ground running. Instead, fans feel like they've been handed a project when what they needed was a solution. Russell Martin's vision for the team has come under increasing scrutiny. He's clearly got ideas, a certain way he wants to play, and a blueprint for how he wants to mold this squad. But football is a results business. And when those results aren't coming, every decision gets put under the microscope. Chermatai may go on to become a star. There's no denying he has talent. But right now, talent alone isn't enough to calm the storm brewing at Ibrox. Let's not forget the defensive side of the story. On deadline day, Rangers also confirmed the loan signing of Canadian international Derek Cornelius. This was one of the few moves that actually made some sense. Cornelius has experience. He brings physicality and composure at the back, and Martin had been vocal for weeks about needing more options in central defense. The manager had previously targeted players like Connor Cody, who ended up choosing Wrexham, and had a move for Real Betis Nahela Mindel collapse at the last moment. So Cornelius arriving gives some balance to a back line that's already seen changes earlier in the window with the arrivals of Jose Cordoba and Jefty. But even that defensive reshuffle hasn't come without its share of drama. Robin Proper was allowed to return to FC20, and Ben Davies, who, while inconsistent, had been a squad regular, was sent on loan to Oxford United. The backline now looks almost completely rebuilt, and while that may offer long-term benefits, it's yet another example of how unstable this squad looks right now. So many ins and outs, so many new faces, and so little time to build cohesion. And then came Sunday's Old Firm showdown. A 0-0 draw against Celtic at Ibrox, a result that would usually be seen as a positive, especially after a clean sheet, but one that felt, to many, like papering over the cracks. Martin took pride in the defensive effort, praising the aggression and intensity his players showed, calling it a foundation to build on. But he also admitted the team lacked quality in possession, and that's exactly where the criticism comes in. If this group was designed to dominate the ball and control matches, then why is it still struggling to create real chances in the biggest games? Adding to the unease is the situation surrounding Nicholas Raskin. Left out of the squad entirely against Celtic, trained alone in the lead-up to the match, and now heading off to international duty with Belgium without any clear explanation from the manager. Fans were chanting his name during the Old Firm clash, and that says everything you need to know. They don't just want Raskin back in the squad, they see him as essential. And the feeling among supporters is that whatever is going on behind the scenes, it's up to the manager to sort it. Quickly, Russell Martin has since tried to shift the conversation away from individuals and focus on the team, but that's easier said than done when a fan favorite like Raskin is being sidelined. The Belgian midfielder is still committed to the club, according to those close to the situation, and he hasn't pushed for a move despite interest from the likes of FC Copenhagen. That should count for something. And with Rangers still winless in the league, it's not a luxury Martin can afford to freeze out players who might actually help. As things stand, Raskin is expected to rejoin the squad after the international break, with clear-the-air talks planned between him and the manager. That conversation could prove pivotal not just for his future at the club, but also for the overall harmony within the dressing room. Rangers need unity now more than ever, and it's hard to build that when one of your most talented midfielders is watching games from home. The fixture list isn't going to get any easier either. Rangers face Hearts next weekend, desperate to pick up their first Premiership win of the campaign. After that comes Hibernian, Livingston, and Falkirk, followed closely by the return of Europa League action. It's a defining period coming up, one that could shape not just the season, but Russell Martin's tenure as Rangers boss. Right now, the spotlight is firmly on him. The decisions he's made, from selling Dessers and Iguain, to bringing in an unproven Chermatai, to sidelining Raskin, have all added to a growing list of concerns among the Ibrox faithful. Supporters are tired of projects. They want purpose. They want identity. And above all, they want results. The margin for error is shrinking fast, and unless some of these gambles pay off quickly, Martin could find himself in a situation that's spiraling out of control far sooner than anyone expected. The thing is, when a transfer window closes, there's supposed to be a sense of clarity, a defined squad, a plan, a direction. But around Ibrox right now, everything feels murky. Players have come and gone, but the bigger picture? Still unclear. And what's maybe most concerning for Rangers fans is not just who's wearing the shirt, but how they're wearing it. There's no identity on the pitch, no real rhythm to this team's performances. For a squad that's been built on promises of structure, aggression, and technical quality, the product so far has been, at best, a work in progress. At worst, a tactical mess. Russell Martin keeps repeating that things take time, that this group needs patience, that the pieces are coming together. But this isn't a club where patience comes cheap. It never has been. Rangers fans demand results, demand pride in performances, demand a team that reflects the stature of the badge. When the transfer dealings start to look like gambling instead of planning, the trust begins to slip. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. There's a feeling among the fan base that the club is walking blindfolded into what could be a defining season. And if things don't click fast, the consequences won't just be on the scoreboard. They'll be in the stands, in the atmosphere, in the identity of this club moving forward. Take the signing of Bojan Majowski, for example. He was handed a debut in the Old Firm match, and while he showed flashes, he's clearly still adjusting. That's no knock on the player. It's just the reality. Integrating new talent takes time. But when you're stacking the squad with multiple newcomers all at once, and letting go of those who know the rhythm of the league, it becomes less about building a team and more about throwing the dice. And right now, the dice are not rolling in Russell Martin's favor. You look at someone like CYRIEL Dessers. He wasn't perfect, but he knew the game here. He knew how to handle pressure, how to drag defenders around, how to play with his back to goal. And he scored goals. Maybe not as many as fans wanted, maybe not always pretty, but he delivered. To let a striker like that go and bring in an untested teenager for more than double the price? That's the kind of decision that leaves people bewildered. It doesn't align with logic. It doesn't speak to a club trying to win now. It feels like a rebuild in disguise, but no one's calling it that out loud. And then there's the midfield situation. Nico Raskin might not be the loudest voice in the room, but on the pitch, he brings balance. He brings calm. He brings a sense of control that, frankly, has been missing. Leaving him out of the squad completely against Celtic, not even on the bench, felt like a message. Whether it was disciplinary, tactical, or something else entirely, the truth is that fans don't care about behind-the-scenes drama. They want the best players on the pitch. And Raskin is one of the best. When the fans are singing his name louder than the managers during a derby, that's not just a statement. It's a warning. If Russell Martin doesn't resolve that relationship quickly, it could fracture the dressing room from within. What's even more alarming is how little depth there seems to be in key areas. Defensively, yes, Cornelius is in, and Cordoba and Jefty earlier in the window at options. But cohesion in a backline doesn't come overnight. And with players like Ben Davies, someone who could have been a stabilizing figure, being loaned out, the squad suddenly looks a bit unbalanced. It's not just about numbers. It's about experience. It's about understanding each other's movement, timing, tendencies. And right now, the back four feels like a puzzle box still missing half the pieces. Further up the pitch, the lack of cutting edge has become a real issue. For draws in a row in the Premiership says it all. The team can build up play, they can get into decent positions, but they're not clinical. They're not ruthless. And in Scottish football, especially when you're chasing Celtic at the top, you don't get 5 or 6 chances per game. You might get 2. You need someone who can bury them. That's what fans were hoping to see in this transfer window, a proven, hungry, reliable goal scorer. Instead, what they got was a prospect with no top-flight goals and a hefty price tag. Chermatai might grow into that role, but at what cost in the meantime? There's also a growing feeling that Martin's tactical philosophy hasn't been clearly communicated, not to the players, not to the fans, and possibly not even within the club itself. One week the team is trying to dominate possession and play short from the back. The next week it's about grit and aggression and grinding out results. There's nothing wrong with adapting, but right now, it feels like there's no foundation. The identity is missing, and when identity is missing, everything else starts to wobble. Training reports say the intensity is high, that the players are buying in. But that only matters if it translates to match day. And so far, we haven't seen enough to believe this team can consistently impose itself, especially not in the league's most difficult fixtures. Games against Hearts, Hibs, and Livingston are looming, and those are the kinds of matches that define whether a season builds momentum or collapses. Points lost now cannot be recovered in March. And if Rangers continue to draw games they should be winning, the pressure will go from frustration to full-blown crisis mode. The supporters are speaking with their voices and with their silence. You can hear the change in tone at Ibrox. The hope that buzzed through the early part of the summer is being replaced by doubt. Fans aren't just questioning results, they're questioning intent. Does this club have a strategy that makes sense for now? Or is it all about tomorrow? Because in Glasgow, tomorrow only matters if today is sorted first. What's most painful for Rangers fans is that none of this feels necessary. With a few different decisions, keeping Dessers, reintegrating Raskin, signing one experienced striker instead of a raw teenager, this squad could look very different. It could look ready. Instead, it looks uncertain. And uncertainty at Rangers rarely ends well. You get the sense that one more bad result could turn the tension into something explosive. The club is walking a tightrope, and Martin knows it. He's spoken calmly in the media, insisting he sees progress, praising the squad's character and commitment. But even his tone has started to shift. You can hear the pressure creeping into his words. The need to defend every decision. The constant references to standards, to desire, to accountability. That's usually the language of a manager who knows the room is getting restless. This international break might be the most important fortnight of Russell Martin's managerial career. Not because of the matches being played elsewhere, but because of what needs to happen behind the scenes. Raskin's situation must be resolved. The squad needs to regroup. The coaching staff need to decide what kind of football they want to play, not in theory, but in execution. And the club, from top to bottom, needs to send a message that they know what they're doing. Because if they don't, the next few weeks could define more than a season. They could define what kind of club Rangers are becoming. A club that chases hope, or a club that builds results. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. CYRIEL Dessers, the Nigerian striker whose time at Rangers always seemed to be accompanied by equal parts promise and frustration, has now left Ibrox in a cloud of controversy, leaving behind words that are reverberating through Scottish football like an echo that refuses to fade. His parting declaration, rather than being the usual polite farewell filled with gratitude and memories, was laced with barbs that have sparked heated debates across pubs, social media, and press rooms. Supporters who had long been split over his performances are now split again, this time over whether his honesty was refreshing or whether it crossed the line into unnecessary disrespect. For a player who never truly managed to silence his critics during his time in Glasgow, choosing to speak so directly as he departed has turned his farewell into a rumor-laden storm that feels almost bigger than his tenure on the pitch. What he said may not have been expected, but it has ensured that his name will linger in discussion long after the final whistle of his last game has blown, and in a city where football is as much about passion and identity as it is about results, that might prove to be his most lasting contribution. The precise content of Dessers' declaration is already being twisted, reshaped, and exaggerated depending on who is retelling it, but the common thread is his suggestion that the environment at Rangers was not always conducive to a player's growth or confidence. Some insiders whisper that he complained of a lack of faith from sections of the support, while others hint he was pointing fingers higher up, suggesting the club's vision and strategy did not align with what players on the ground were experiencing. Such comments, if taken at face value, cut to the very core of what it means to represent a club as demanding as Rangers, where pressure is constant and expectations are nothing short of relentless. The danger for Dessers, however, is that by lifting the curtain ever so slightly, he has ignited speculation about the dressing room atmosphere, the relationship between players and management, and whether the board is truly unified in its ambitions. And in Glasgow, speculation rarely stays quiet. Instead, it swells into rumor, and rumor becomes narrative, until what was once an offhand remark can grow into a thunderclap that threatens to unsettle even those who remain behind. It is perhaps unsurprising, then, that his words have been seized upon by rival supporters who are eager to paint Rangers as a club in disarray, using Dessers' comments as a stick to poke at the Ibrox faithful. Within hours of his statement surfacing, online forums were ablaze with rival fans claiming that cracks were showing at the very heart of the squad, while Rangers supporters rushed to defend the integrity of their club and dismiss Dessers as bitter, disillusioned, or simply trying to protect his own reputation after a mixed spell. Yet the truth, as always, is likely more complex. It is no secret that Dessers' form was patchy, with moments of promise undone by missed opportunities, and in such a ruthless environment, every touch is scrutinized. Did his lack of consistent brilliance lead him to resent the weight of expectation? Or did the very pressure cooker of Ibrox contribute to his inconsistency? These are the questions now being debated in cafes and taxis, as the city's endless appetite for football gossip finds fresh fuel in the words of a striker who, even in leaving, has kept himself firmly in the spotlight. Inside the club, it is understood that officials are attempting to play down the fallout, keen to move swiftly into the new season without the distraction of lingering drama. Yet no one can ignore that Dessers' parting words arrive at a delicate time, as the team works to rebuild confidence and shape a squad capable of challenging on all fronts. The suggestion that not every player has felt fully supported or understood could sow seeds of doubt among those who already feel the burden of expectation, particularly newer arrivals who may be wondering what life at Rangers will truly entail. Furthermore, managers and coaches, already under pressure to deliver results, must now contend with questions about how they foster unity and resilience in a group that is scrutinized more closely than almost any in Europe. Dessers' declaration may have been made on his way out the door, but the echoes reverberate within the very walls he has left behind, and even the most disciplined of clubs cannot entirely prevent the whispers from taking root in the minds of players and fans alike. In the end, Dessers has departed Glasgow not with the quiet dignity of a player who gave his all and moved on, but with the lingering noise of a man determined to make a point, regardless of whether others wanted to hear it. His legacy at Rangers will not be remembered for an abundance of goals or heroic performances, but rather for this final act of candor, which has left the club to grapple with questions they might have preferred remained unasked. In football, as in life, perception is often as powerful as reality, and Desser's words have created a perception of disharmony that will take time to dispel. Whether he spoke out of genuine conviction, personal frustration, or a calculated desire to control his own narrative, the fact remains that he has left behind a story that will continue to be retold. In the ever-passionate, ever-divided world of Scottish football, where rumors gain lives of their own and truth is often obscured by loyalty, CYRIEL Dessers' exit may well be remembered less as the end of a playing chapter and more as the spark that ignited another round of questions about what it truly means to wear the blue of Rangers. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.